morning. Welcome to the 1111 gathering. This is Frank in Williamsburg, Virginia. If you haven't been to Williamsburg, Virginia, you haven't missed a whole lot unless you are very interested in history. And what you may not know, that Williamsburg, Virginia is actually a preserved town. I think it might even be classed as a city, but it's very small. However, the main part, the old town, looks exactly the same as it did a couple of 100 years ago. And interesting thing is all the people that are part of this living museum walk around just dressed like they were a couple of 100 years ago, which is really interesting. It's sometimes a little disconcerting when you are in Trader Joe's picking up a packet of frozen peas, and then you look around and here comes a guy in a tri-cornered hat with a sword. Not an everyday experience in most towns, but it all adds to the culture. So if you haven't had the chance to visit Williamsburg yet, do come along. You'd love it here, and you can always come visit us. You'd be very welcome. Anyway, this is not an advert for the Williamsburg Tourist Board. Just thought I'd mention that because it's a place that I think people deserve to see, particularly if they have an interest in the history of our wonderful nation here, because it really is enlightening to see what happened with these pioneers and the way that they struggled to get everything together to get rid of the British. Yes, well, we're still here. All right, so today's entry, number 74, is called Clear Thinking and Focus. Now, if you've been following along with us, you would have heard in some of the recent teachings us talking about the importance of the way that we think. So this is a brief entry that the Lord gave us to bring a little bit more light to this particular subject. So, clear thinking and focus. Be diligent in your pursuit of ordered and controlled thinking, says God. Allow yourself to think only righteous, uplifting thoughts, and let those thoughts lead to good works. The nature of these works will give a good indication of who is doing the thinking. It is the anointed mind, which is methodical, calm, and sees the solution immediately? Or is it the unfocused ramblings of the flesh? Obviously, fleshly thinking will lead only to fleshly works or fleshly actions, and there is no profit in either. Actions that bear good fruit will create the addition of gold, silver, and precious stones to your foundation. You must seek the integrity in everything that you do and be in control of your thinking when making decisions that have an effect on other people. Wow. Well, a short but powerful message today. So be careful about how you think. And what it says there is pretty easy to interpret. When you're thinking under the guidance of the Spirit, it's always methodical, calm, and you will immediately see the solution to any challenge. When you're wrestling with decisions, or you just instantly make a decision seemingly without thinking, then you're probably letting this thing, the flesh, take control of the situation. And that is going to lead you completely in the opposite direction to what the Lord wants you to be taking. We had a reading today. There's several, but I'm just going to pick out the one from the book of Psalms in the Source of All Truth. And it's Psalm number 19, verse number 14. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. And if you don't recognize yet that your strength comes from the Lord, then it's time to look inward a little bit, because that's where it needs to be coming from. The minute you think that you can rely on your own strength or lean on your own understanding, you're going to start down that downward spiral again and then have to climb all the way back up. How do I know that? Because I've spent years doing exactly that. I get everything going along just nicely and then start believing more in me than in anything else, and then down you go in the spiral. It's just like the Israelites walking around the same mountain for 40 years in the wilderness. At any given time, they were literally hours away from the entrance to the promised land, as it was described, and they just kept walking past it because they weren't ready. Now, I'm going to encourage you not to spend 40 years in the wilderness if you can avoid it. And you can avoid it by getting your thinking clear, getting your focus clear, looking at what is it that God wants you to do with your life. Doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. Doesn't matter. Don't compare yourself to other people. Just compare yourself to what God is telling you he wants you to do. It's not that difficult, but the enemy would lead us to believe it's difficult. And they come up with all these incredible things about how to develop yourself. All I keep hearing about is self-love and self-belief and look at what I've done. These are all interesting concepts, but none of them take you closer to God. In fact, the minute you start that look at what I've done thing, you know you're going away from God. And that's where the enemy wants you to be, because then you're susceptible to his plans. Then he can infiltrate your mind and start leading you in the wrong direction. God's ways are pretty simple. Just follow his word. We don't have to go off and buy expensive courses and libraries full of books. Look, there's nothing wrong with books, but any book that contradicts what it says in this book is not to be taken seriously. And the time that you spend delving into all these other books that are going to teach you how to say, look how great I am, is time totally wasted. Because the Lord is only interested in you following his plan for your life. And it's a beautiful plan. And it will bring you more joy and delight than anything that you can come up with, and certainly anything that anybody else can guide you to do. God, remember, knows the end before the beginning. So nothing that you do is a surprise. It's all part of the process. But if you're going to build an eternal future for yourself and your family and everyone around you, you're only going to do it under the guidance of God's Spirit. And that's what we're all about here today and every other day, is helping you to find that path so that you can connect directly with God's Spirit and find out all the wonders that he has in store for you. So we'll continue this journey tomorrow, and we'll see you then at 11:11. Bye for now.